All right, little impromptu video. Picked up this Bushido12 while they were on sale, and I've really only run it less than one battery pack through, and I want to modify it already. Super cool truck, just size-wise alone. The Samurai body's super cool, but it definitely has its flaws and also has essentially no aftermarket. So I'm going to be doing a couple things here. Obviously, I got some tires and wheels on order. One thing I think this thing could definitely benefit from would be some more low-speed control. There aren't any axle gears available that I know of. So my plan is to see if I can remove the stock transmission and replace it with this Chinese OD3. I have no idea if this is going to work. My primary concern with going to this is actually the depth from the face here down to the spur gear, and whether or not the little 380 motor is actually going to have enough of a shaft to actually get down there with it. So the reasons I'm going to this transmission, the stock transmission runs a 13.98 to 1 crawl ratio out of the transmission, not including the axle gears. And if I go to this, not only will it reduce gear ratio, but it will also give me some overdrive. So if I stick with the 13-tooth pinion, it'll actually speed up the front a little bit to a 12.37 to 1, and then the rear would be a 14.93 to 1. So a little faster in the front, a little slower in the rear compared to stock. If I go to a 10-tooth pinion, I'll get 16.1 to 1 in the front and 19.44 to 1 in the rear, which would be a way better crawl and still have a decent chunk of overdrive, which I think this thing needs. So other than waiting on wheels and tires, that's going to be the first thing to try to make happen. I think width-wise, I can do it. It might be a little funky, but we are going to try. So let's see what happens. All right, quick little down and dirty drop in. I didn't do anything to this other than I had to grind the shaft, a little flat spot on the shaft to fit the stock drive shaft, which will inevitably be replaced by like a cut to length. But overall, I think fits in there pretty decent. I think with how small the 380 can is, I won't have any clearance issues on that upper link. I got to figure out how to actually mount this thing, but fits in there pretty good. Honestly, it sits so high up right now because of the width compared to the frame rails that if you were able to come up with a flatter skid, you could probably tuck that skid up a little bit. I'm not that worried about that. This thing is not going to be a total performance monster. I just, I like to tinker. So with the OD3, you'll have the option for a straight through output. So this output and this output are the same ratio. And then this output and this output is what gives you the overdrive and or underdrive ratio. So the front's going to spin, this front will spin faster than this output here. Otherwise, if you don't want overdrive, you just run it this way. But my whole goal was a little reduction and a little bit of overdrive. So I'm going to keep chipping away and see what happens here. Well, the workbench is getting progressively dirtier, but I got transmission in. It's definitely not my finer work, but what I did is I took one of these little tabs. If you don't have these things, they're pretty handy because the 3 holes there are through holes, and then these 4 are threaded for M3. So if you look way down in there, see it right there, it's on a little stand. So ran it up through there, and then I have a screw going through the bottom right there into one of the bolt holes, and then this one here I drilled straight through the plastic and went right into. So it's not exactly a clean job, but it will work. Maybe I'll take a little piece of plastic and cover that hole completely so I don't get hung up there. But it's in, and then I did actually have one cut to length shaft that I could use, so I went ahead and put that in here. So that's good. And then I'll need to do one more from here to the rear, but I have to order that. Yeah, looking pretty cool though. All right, so here's a good look at the little mount. All it is a spacer, an M3 bolt with this little piece, which is, like I said before, one of these. And then I just drilled out this one for a through bolt. And I kind of just put the transmission in there. Transmission has 2 bolt holes. I kind of just sat it on there, ran a bolt into it, and then left everything loose until I got the location I wanted, and then tightened it down. And then for the secondary bolt hole, it comes right through that little pocket right there. And I'm going to use another spacer right in there just to keep it in place. Yeah, pretty simple. It's not going to be anything fancy. What I might do is put a cover on the bottom and then maybe countersink it so it has countersunk screws instead of button heads, just to seal that up, but it may not even be necessary, truly. So while we're waiting for parts to arrive, like the rear drive shaft, I went ahead and swapped out the servo to a full-size servo. This is a Shift XB, so it's like their, budget servo. It'll be great for this truck. But the mount is obviously not big enough. The stock mount is not big enough. This is a strange size servo because it's not a micro, and it's not a 10th scale. It's in between. So really your best bet is to get a different servo mount and put on a full-size servo. So that's exactly what I did. I had this servo mount printed by a friend of mine. Actually printed me 2 of them, this one, and then what's on there, just in case, one fails or it doesn't fit. Seems to fit really, really well. I know that if you go on ShiftsRC's website, you can buy the file, the servo mount file, for like $2 and print your own. It seemed to work really well. The only thing I've run into with this one, because the servo horn wants to contact the diff there. So I ground it down a little bit. But in reality, I should probably just space the servo forward a hair. So take these screws out, put a little washer behind them to shove the servo forward just a little bit. I mean, it's not bad. It's just when you hit that servo right about there, it wants to stop. And it'll push past it, but that's undue stress, unneeded stress. So, yeah. Once that other drive shaft comes in, I'll get that together and throw the motor in. Unfortunately, motor-wise, I was going to reuse the stock brushed motor just for a solid comparison, but the M1.5 set screw in here really is tight, and it ended up stripping out. Like my Allen key stripped out inside there. So, yeah, if I drill this, I could swap it over. I need a different pinion. This is, I think, 32 pitch, and that is 48 pitch. So I need to do a 48 pitch pinion. So I would need to pull this off, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. I might just go straight to brushless. I'm not really sure. We shall see. All right, so drive shaft showed up. I also wired on some lights because I wanted to. And got the front drive shifting, got the rear drive shaft in. So just checking the overdrive. Obviously, there's quite a bit of play in these axles. But if we start it roughly at the same place, I'm going to test the overdrive by running the back tire 1 full revolution, and we should see where this one ends up. All right, so at the back at 1 full revolution, boom, it puts us about, on the tape test, about 25% overdrive in the front, which is pretty cool. It's perfect. I don't want any more than that. Honestly, I would be even content with a little bit less. I think the math says 18% when you compare the ratios, but tire test says 25% faster. Well, things got a little out of hand. So I couldn't get the stock pinion off of the stock brushed motor to try to reuse that motor for this. So I went ahead and got a little antsy and threw this mini Fusion in. Obviously, it's a huge step up as far as control and low speed control and all that stuff. But it's pretty smooth. Okay. So we got that overdrive, we got that low speed control. I ended up using a 10-tooth pinion, which gets the ratio down to, the front is 16.1 to 1 and the rear is 19.4 to 1, where the stock ratio would have been 13.98. So it's definitely geared lower. It's going to be slow, but it's going to be smooth. So that's pretty cool. One issue I have run into, unfortunately, is that right here at full stuff, let me see if I can zoom it here, at full stuff, it smacks. So when you try to compress the front end straight on, she hits, okay? We'll see if we can maybe try to cock the transmission that way somehow. I don't really know how to do that yet. But yeah, it's going to be on 3S for now. I'm going to do my best to not kill the gears. Hopefully the metal gears and the axles hold up. So let me throw this body on and we'll do a little driving around in the basement here. That's about as slow as it gets. I do have some wheels and tires to throw on it. I bought a set of tires from RC 4-wheel drive, and then I shipped them to the wrong address. So then I bought a set another tires, thinking I was gonna never get the RC 4-wheel drives back. And I guess I'm gonna have both. So I have a set of RC 4-wheel drive KM3s coming, and I have a set of 393 Jconcepts Bounty Hunters. So we're gonna try them out, see which one looks the best, functions the best, but mostly looks the best. Still no added weight. And this thing does pretty good. See how that drag brake setting is. Oh, caught on that axle. What an impressive little truck. Overall, I'm very pleased with this thing. It's really a fun truck, way more fun than I thought it would be. The tires, I really like them. They're using the stock foams. If I was going for all-out performance, I would probably not get the Bounty Hunter. I would probably get the Tusk, but I kind of like the little scale look to it. You know, just a little simple mud terrain, all-terrain type tire. The shocks are already leaking quite a bit, so that will probably be a future upgrade. But yeah, really just a fun truck. Way more fun than I expected it to be. So yeah, there you go. Bushido 12, done the way it should have been done from the get-go. So I would not shy away from this one. I do think that the 12 scales differ. I think that the Bushido and the Ecto and the associated CR12 or whatever it's called, they're not all the same. So just keep it in mind. I think this is probably the best one. All right, thanks for watching.